Hey guys, it's Tyler with TCG Rewind. Today I wanted to do a quick video talking about the recent Tengu Plant Takeover 3. It was a tournament, free entry, just kind of like a smaller monthly tournament that we have in our Discord every single month. And yeah, I just kind of want to go over the decks that, we saw in top 8, the decks that we saw overall, and just kind of talk about this tournament, because honestly it was kind of spicy. We had a unique situation in the finals. I'll explain that later, but first I wanted to go over this little, metagame breakdown. This was made by Photo Shooty, so shout outs to him for putting this together. But these are all the decks that were represented in the tournament. I think there's like 15 total entrants. We had one Exodia, one Macro Cosmos list, one Dark World, and again, this is pre-gates of the structure, gates of the Dark World structure, because we were playing Toronto Pool, so he was playing like before Grapha or anything like that, right? Like it was a pretty unique build. It was pretty funny to see. We had one Gladiator Beast, one Blackwing, one Zombie, two Gravekeepers, two Heroes, two Tengu Plants, and then three Karakuri. There was two Pure and then one Karakuri Machina Plants, which is kind of like its own thing, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so that was kind of the breakdown. That's what this looks like. We'll hop over, we'll go to top 8, kind of look at who did what, and then we'll get into their list. So before we get into top 8, I just real quick wanted to say, guys, if you're interested in playing in any of these tournaments and being featured on my channel, talking about the deck list that you played, join the Tengu Plant Discord. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Also subscribe if you want to see more Tengu Plant content, because quite frankly, I pump it out, and have a lot of informative videos on my channel if you're looking to learn more about this format. I think it's the greatest format Yu-Gi-Oh's ever had, so I'm sure you'd love to play it. We have a Tengu Mania tournament coming up, which is a free entry tournament, which usually has a cash prize that comes out of the moderators' pockets. We all pitch in just to try to create a prize pool, because we want to see the format grow, because it's so fun. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. It's a really good time to start participating in events, because you could just play for free and win some free money, which is really awesome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you join the Discord, and we'll get to top 8 right now. So looking at top 8, first things, we have Retro Yu-Gi-Oh, who in like 7th and 8th, like they're one and the same. So Retro Yu-Gi-Oh got 7th or 8th with Tengu Plants, and then Locos got it with Karakuri. And then tied for 5th and 6th, we have Himne and Richard. I'm not gonna try to pronounce his username, but they were playing GK and then a GK burn-ish. So it was kind of funny that both these decks got 5th and 6th. They were both the only two Gravekeeper players, and they kind of placed exactly the same. But then in 4th place we had Mien. I don't know how to say his name either, but he got Karakuri. And then Halfar got 3rd with Heroes. Necro got 2nd with Zombies, and then Ian Tobayachi got 1st place with Tengu Plants. So we'll kind of get into their list. We'll start with Retro Yu-Gi-Oh's Tengu Plant list. So basically, this list is honestly a very refined list. I really like it. I like the approach he took, because he opted to main like triple D prison and double bottomless. So he went for like a more back row oriented build. Looks like he cut out things like Caius, which I do think Caius is a really good card. But at the end of the day, it seemed like he was just focusing his attention around the core of you want to control the board with either Thunder King, Tengu, or Tour Guide, and then just have that plant engine to go off with. I will say that I do think enemy controller is really, really good in this deck. Maybe without Caius, you don't necessarily need it, so it's kind of fine that he left it out, I guess. But the one thing I'll say is most people are used to that standard Billy Break list, and people are familiar with the back row basically being the cards you see from like Warning to the left. But by adding these cards in, you're playing cards that your opponent's not really going to play around or think about, which is why I think it's a bit spicy to like have in here to kind of catch your opponent off guard. So I do like the approach to this list. I think it is pretty solid. I like the, I mean, I guess I don't even know how I feel about the Upstart. I feel like Upstart in Tengu Plants is a bit awkward because you're playing Tengu and you don't want to draw multiple copies. So I feel like this card's actually less good in Tengu Plants than other things. But, to each their own. The 37 card deck, Upstart Hoban, gotta believe. So now we'll look at Locos, we'll look at his Karakuri list. So he was playing a very anti-spell and trap Karakuri list. We're looking at triple Decree, triple MST, Heavy Storm, and I even see that spicy limiter removal tech. So it looks like he's just kind of trying to like pop off as soon as he can and like basically put the only concern on getting max seed, which, you know, as I've talked in my max seed video, like this deck's actually kind of hard to max seed. It's a bit tricky, but for the most part, it kind of seems like he's going for that explosive path of, I don't want to deal with your back row, and then he even has that limiter removal to try to, like, you know, pop off and get an OTK. There's also some weird spice in the side deck here. I see a Karibo, which I'm not sure what that's for, and then Magic Cylinder. I also have no clue why that's in there, but it is. And then even 3 pulling the rugs. I feel like the side deck looks very confused. I don't really understand it, but yeah, overall, I think I'd say that I think there's a bit too much back row hate. I feel like if you're running triple Decree, I don't think you need triple MST. I would have liked to see things like My Body or I don't know, even Lance I think is really good if you're gonna opt for a build like this, just because I don't think you need 3 MST, 3 Decree, and the Heavy Storm. That just seems like a bit much to me. Alright, so next we have Richard's Gravekeeper burn. So his list is scattered and a mess, so, you know, next time you're putting your deck list, at least hit the sort button. Come on, you know, we're not animals. But basically, it's a GK burn list. It, like, kind of, there's like 3, or I guess 4 burn cards in the list, which was Ceasefire, Just Desserts, and then Chaos Blast or something like that. I'll go, you know, we'll pull it up right here. Okay, so it was Chaos Burst, which says when your opponent monster declares an attack, tribute 1 monster, then target the attacking monster, destroy that target, then inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So this can kind of be used in conjunction with, you know, using Gravekeeper's Recruiter. You can kind of tribute it off and inflict a bunch of damage. And then I can honestly say I did watch on stream Richard resolve Gravekeeper Cannon Soldier for game, because it's not once per turn, it just tributes stuff. Which I thought was really cool, really funny to see. So, you know, the burn strategy technically worked, right? So, yeah, I don't know, that it's really unique. And also, if you guys want to check out the VOD for that stream, I stream the entire tournament with Carpath on my channel. So if, you know, just check my past VODs, you'll see the full tournament displayed there. So, yeah, if you want to go check that out, you can. But moving on, we got Hibne, who also was playing a GK, but his GK list was interesting because it was a bit more of a turbo list, which he says shoutouts to Halfar and Dark Signer for probably helping him with this list. But I actually really like his approach. It's running triple Upstart, triple Wonder Wand, and I think what this can really do is turbo out your Royal Tribute. You just want to try to hit that Royal Tribute turn 1, because like this can be a win condition sometimes against a lot of the decks in the meta, especially like agents and stuff like that, which ironically we went another tournament again without having a single agent player present, which I think is really crazy. But yeah, and then there's also the spicy tech of, I guess we'll talk about Rite of Spirit first, which is kind of like a Call of a Haunted that works under Necro Valley, just brings back, it's chainable, it's a normal trap, so like if your opponent Randy spaces or something, you can like punish, which I think is really cool, or even like this is a nice punish to Heavy Storm. But yeah, so you can kind of like bring back Recruiter, and it lets you just permanently cycle Recruiter and like do a bunch of cool stuff with it. I really like this card, and I like that he used this as a way to justify a much lower monster count. Like he cut down Descend It to just a single copy, and then isn't even running like Assailant or anything. It's just like running these monsters knowing that his deck is pretty thin, or going to be, and so you're only really seeing like your good cards, right? And I think that's a really smart approach. I think that's a really good idea. I definitely want to kind of experiment with this card myself, because I actually think this card is like pretty good, because Necro Valley is really good in this format, especially now that Dark World is not being played because of the Toronto pool or whatever. So yeah, I somehow managed to forget to talk about this card that Hibne was running, which was Spell Shield type 8. This is really spicy, and I actually saw this resolve a lot. It's a counter trap that says when a spell card is activated that targets exactly 1 monster on the field, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Or when a spell card is activated, send 1 spell from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. I actually really like this card because, 1, you can use it to pitch like Wonder Wand or like a Dead Stale or something like that in your hand to negate a Heavy Storm if you need to, even an extra Necro Valley. Or like I also saw it kind of come up in the tournament where he would use it on his opponents like enemy controller or Book of Moon or like mind control or something like that. It weirdly is pretty good for some reason, and it was cool that he experimented with it. I actually saw it be pretty relevant, which I think is cool because again, it's a nice out to heavy storm, but just kind of generically anything, and the cost really isn't that heavy, which I also like. All right, now getting into top 4, we have, again, I don't know how to say his name, I'll just say Nacho, who was playing Karakuri. And he had his own kind of unique list here. I will say that when I watched on stream him play, he kind of misplayed a bit in his top 4 match, which I think actually would have been able to net him a win. Like he in theory, he should have won, which is kind of important to note. Like I think his list was actually pretty solid. My only gripe with it, or my only thought, is I don't like Fiendish Chain if you're running Valor. I feel like this card's not super good in the format. And like especially if you can run Valor, which he can and is. So I think this like could have been like bottomless or something that I think is a bit more efficient. Even D-Prison I think is really good. So that's kind of my only thing, but I will say I do like this approach probably the best for Karakuri, to be like a mid-range deck and just running back row, because all you need to do is resolve like 1 or 2 big synchros, and then you usually have a really strong established board, and it's hard for your opponent to deal with that. So having that back row I think is really nice, and it's like a safe, slower way to play the game where you're not really vulnerable to Max C almost at all. So I really do like this list. Again, it's unfortunate that he kind of misplayed, but you know, that's the whole point of playing these tournaments, so we can have learning experiences. All right, next up in 3rd place we had How Far, who is playing Heroes. So this is basically a standard hero beat deck. The only thing he was running is the 1900 Fire Gemini. It's like Chevalier or something like that. I don't remember what it's called, but I like this instead of the other one that's the light, because in reality you want just the extra type, so you can potentially go into Nova Master. Nova Master can be a really powerful card in the right situations. Like if you just need to summon a beater and you want to swing over something, it's way better to make Nova Master than the Shining, to like, so you can draw a card, you know, and like it creates a lot of pressure. So I really do like that. I like his approach. And then I also like that he opted to do Captain Gold plus Skyscraper. He said in our Discord that this was for the purpose of outing things like Necro Valley. You could like pitch and then use it, and like it outs Necro Valley, because we're still playing in this time where if you played a field spell you popped your opponents, which I think is really nice. I'm not necessarily a fan of the rivalry in main. I think there's a lot of mono type decks out there, you know, like for example Agents like purely fairy, which I mean, I guess if you let him resolve Gotchi, like then you can maybe kill a Gotchi with it, but I think for the most part this card isn't gonna see a ton of value in a lot of matchups. And I think it's even conflicting with his list, where it's like he runs like 5 warriors, and then like Thunder King can't be played, Snowman Eater, you know. I just think it's a little awkward. But you know, I'm sure it could come up if you get the right matchups. Like Tengu Plants, I think maybe it would hurt a bit more, but overall I think something better could have filled that slot. But overall, yeah, pretty standard list. Nothing really too fancy to talk about here. Next, and then in 2nd place we had our boy Necro. You know, he actually got 2nd place in the last one, I believe, playing zombies. And this is a standard bread and butter zombie list. You know, it's his like mid-range zombie build. He played really well, and he fought tooth and nail to try to get the win on this tournament. He was coming in from the loser's side, and he, you know, had to win 2 best of 3s to win the tournament, and he won 1 of them and was very close on the 2nd one. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. Overall, this list performed really well. The approach is you use the goblin zombies to kind of float into making a bigger play, right? So you just kind of stall with the goblin zombies and the pyramid turtle to eventually like build up a good push, and you use the traps to kind of slow or simplify the game state so that push is more impactful. Yeah, really solid list. I actually really like this list. I kind of want to net deck it and play it myself just because it looks like a lot of fun to play. But yeah, and then finally we'll go back, we'll look. Ian won the tournament with Tengu Plants, which is actually the first time anyone has won with Tengu Plants in our Discord for our tournaments, which I think is really funny and really spicy that he managed to do it, because the other key thing about this is this was Ian's first ever tournament for Tengu Plant format. He had never played it before. And so while on stream in the grand finals, you know, he had to win 2 best of 3s to make it. You know, there was quite a few misplays that happened, like, you know, the lack of experience definitely showed. But I will say, as a new player, I think this is a really impressive feat and speaks lengths to what he can do in the future, especially if he kind of learns a bit more, or, you know, like gets more practiced. I'm going to try to go over some of his replays with him so he can learn a bit about the format, and then, you know, hopefully, you know, kind of, I guess, perform a bit better in the next tournament. But overall, I mean, like, he still managed to win the tournament, so a win's a win, you know. But yeah, one thing I really like about this list that he opted to do is it's basically just a standard Billy break list, but the one card he swapped out was, instead of running instead of running the Call of the Haunted, he decided to main deck a Debunk. This is to play around Max C, which I think is really smart. I think that's fair. I don't know if you necessarily need that Call of the Haunted. So other than that, really standard list. This is kind of what you would normally see from this era, or again, the Billy break list. So impressive that he, like, again, he made it while kind of being a bit inexperienced in the format. That doesn't say it's not a deserved win, but it is very it was really cool to see. So glad to see we're getting new faces in, you know, and hopefully this can give some of you guys some confidence to give it a try. You know, this is his first tournament and he won it, so that's really cool. So but yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think of these lists. Let me know if there's any of the other lists you'd maybe want to see, like, you know, if any of these other decks you want to look at before it's burned forever. So yeah, but other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you have a great time dueling today.